Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. And this is my oldest son's soon-to-be first car, and it's been quite the process. Stay tuned. So, like I said, welcome back, guys. If you've been following the channel for a while, you know we're trying to balance the better part of a bunch of projects to include this GTO, that Subaru out there, and the Durango we just recently got running and working the bugs out of the tune on. So this episode is going to be mainly to the two EJs we got going on, and I'll tell you what I'm talking about here in a second. So I got the block back from the machine shop the other day. It looks great. And this EJ, this is the $1,300 marketplace gamble. So if you don't remember that episode, that was back when we first got the green Subaru, before I understood the differences in the various EJs going over the last, 25, 30 years or so. This particular one to have an 048 STI. So that EJ dual cam is a lot different than the ones, in the early 90s. That being said, I was thinking that the Subarus, by and large, were a lot like the old school Hondas back in the day, where, you could get a CRX, EG, EF, EJ hatch, and with a harness and a computer, and pretty much just swap everything where it needed to go and do whatever associated engine mount stuff and good to go. Yeah, the Subarus don't work like that at all. They do amongst the turbo cars and some of the newer NA cars where the body and engine harnesses are separate, but for whatever reason on the 98 model, the body and engine harness is one. And the ECU is something that I guess they only use for 3 years. So it makes it very hard to just update the engine to something much newer, which is why you see a lot of the cars from that era being parted out or in junkyards or need to have gas to come and get it. It's just not very popular for that year range. And on top of that, I love him to death, but my oldest is not a gearhead by any stretch of the imagination. So I can't justify pushing him or trying to convince him to do some sort of elaborate engine, swap like so, or a standalone, all that kind of stuff, because he doesn't care. And that's fine. There's lots of kids out there that are like that. And because he doesn't care, he doesn't see the point in putting in all the extra work that I know and you know as car enthusiasts is necessary to make something like this work. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this engine and I'm going to build it as a complete long block. I already sourced a set of heads, some stage 3 cams, all this kind of stuff. And just like with the Durango 426, I'm just going to take my time and build a super badass EJ and stick it on the engine stand. And that may not seem very rational, but here's the thing. I have $1,300 into this whole setup. As of that machine work, which, little backstory, I bought it off of a guy named Ryan, who is also prior Navy. He was a submarine officer, ironically enough. And it was a pre-built engine. He got in the car, went to do some 85 tuning, a sleeve dropped, puked some coolant, pulled the engine out, built a whole new engine, and left this one in a shop for a couple of years. And I found it on Marketplace and wanted it gone. The story I got was the sleeves moved. It probably needs some machine work. The motor overall should be fine. Didn't want to take any chances, but didn't want to be the senior man with a secret like most of Marketplace and sell me something that was junk. And me not knowing any different, I was like, well, for the price, and I know forged rods, pistons, and crank are generally not cheap for any engine. For what I was getting, it was worth a shot. Well, it paid off. So I picked the block halves, as they're called, up from Stanley the other day, and it turns out the machine work was exactly what Ryan said it needed. It got decked, like 1,000, maybe 2. They honed the cylinders, good to go. The block is good. They checked the line bore. Line bore is in spec. Somebody had already bored it 2 thousandths over, and that's exactly what it measured all the way across. And it is true. Stanley said it's good. Block halves are good. So all I got to do is get oversized main bearings, some new rod bearings. The rods are fine. Some new rings for the rings, and basically re-bearing this bad boy. And it's a sleeved 2.5 EJ with boost tough rods, nitrated crank, CP pistons. $280 for machine work so far. The crank's gonna get polished because it had a little bit of wear on it from when it puked water, and a couple of the journals just need to be polished real good. Shouldn't be too bad, but that's it. We'll probably have $1,700 in it overall between the purchase of, and I didn't just get the short block. I got the short block, heads that ended up not being able to be used, and a tote full of extra parts. So far we're doing really good value-wise. I sourced a set of heads from a guy out of Texas with cams and springs. He's got some cores. I bought some heads from another guy out of Arkansas that ended up needing some machine work, but not a big deal. It turns out STI heads are pretty expensive, and I only have $290 into these after he refunded me some money because the deck surface wasn't as good as he had thought, which is fine. Good on him for making right. So I'll get the heads done. We'll transfer some valving parts over, and I should have a long block here in the next couple of weeks for EJ on the engine stand to do something with eventually. Now, as for that green Subaru outside, this are the innards. The pistons have had much better days, okay? The bearings don't look so great. The crank was trash, and that's over there. The rods are fine, should be. We'll get those measured out and check that. The crank, however, had all kinds of gnarly wear on it. I told Stanley, I said, well, you know, that makes sense because I had some pretty terrible oil pressure. I didn't know that because when we bought the car, idle is set at like 1,200 RPM. Now, I know what you're thinking. If you're a hardcore Subaru guy, like, oh my God, man, it's like super high. It's supposed to be like 750. Sure. Understand I was born in the late 80s, and so growing up in the early to mid 90s, late 90s, and when these cars were new and popular, well, it wasn't uncommon to buy anything used that had a high idle. 5-liter Mustang, Civic, whatever. If somebody had touched it, there's a chance it might be off a couple hundred RPM idle-wise, so you just adjust it and keep it moving. However, on a Subaru, if that's the case, it's probably because it has low oil pressure and they cranked up the idle to hide that so the light didn't come on, which is exactly what happened. Now, be that as it may, the car overall is fairly cherry, so I'm not super mad about it. I knew going in that for what we were paying for the car used at almost 27 years old, it was either going to be a rock or a rock star, and we got a little bit of both. Chassis wise, it's fairly clean. There's a little bit of rust. It came out of New York. It drove fine. It just had oil pressure issues. So what I'm going to do is build what you could consider an OEM plus long block for my son. So I'm going to go get some 2.0 WRX heads, which are apparently the same, similar to the 2.5 heads, except they have a little bit smaller quench, kind of like 5.3 to 6.0 heads if you're familiar with LS cars. But since we're going to run an overbore, like a 10 or 20 overbore on the factory short block to get it back in true round cylinders, that should even out compression wise between the increase in bore and the reducing of the quench in the cylinder head. Compression wise should be right back where we were, pretty close OEM, and should perform about the same without having to do any tuning because we can't, because the ECU just won't, from what I'm told. So all in all, not a big deal. Annoying, yes. Not ideal, sure. End of the world, no. Because I don't know about most of you guys, but I grew up in a day and age where the machine shop was just another stop on the list of repairing your car. Much like the parts store or a tire shop, like it was a thing to go to the machine shop to get things done. I know that's kind of like a naughty word these days. People rather go to their favorite performance shop and poof, car gets built, repaired, whatever. No, back in the day, you did this stuff, and so it doesn't bother me at all. Now, sure, we could look for a low mileage engine in the marketplace, and we could go through that whole rigmarole trying to find a Jasper. Cost wise, it just makes more sense to spend the money here. We're already here, know exactly what we're buying, exactly what we're putting in the car, exactly how it's getting put together, and just be done with it. I'm over it. I don't want to have this reoccurring door of used engines, and you know who you are, where you go to a salvage yard and you buy a $400 or $500 engine that runs, and it runs for 6 months, 3 months, maybe a year, maybe 6 years. But you do it 3 or 4 times. Why not just spend all that money once, one time, and be done? So that's what we're going to do. It'll be OEM plus. We'll run quality mains in it, quality rod bearings. We'll do a +1 on the tolerances so that we can get, you know, a little bit more oil cushioning there. I have an 11 millimeter oil pump, which will bolt right on because it came in the box of stuff I got with this other engine, which from what I told, the 11, it's a 10, 11, and 12 millimeter, and I guess 11's like an upgrade for the step below it and so forth. So we'll do all that and build him a good, solid, all-around, slightly better than OEM, so OEM plus, long block for that Subaru out there that should get him back and forth to school and work indefinitely. Now, the catch is, since he wasn't part of the original, you know, saving money and purchasing process, he's going to make up for it in the machine shop and out here, because there's no such thing as a free lunch, and I'm not the kind of parent, father no less, to just give my kids things without them earning it. We're not playing that game. I'm not doing anything for them as they grow up by doing that. And if you are anywhere, if a father worth his salt, you understand where I'm coming from. So that's what we're going to do. We want to go to an event called TogeCon at the end of the year. I think it's in September in Fayetteville, which isn't far from us. And so it'll be really cool to have this all sorted by then. I actually want to have this engine put together by the end of this month and running next month and work on all the bugs out of it, so he can finish his driving process and get his license and off to the races he goes. Now, with that being said, once we get done with that, I can get back on this, which I'll be picking parts up here and there to run that together while we wait for parts for this to come from Australia. Now, EJ stuff aside, as far as the GTO is concerned, I'm waiting on wheel lugs to come in. These are just some lugs I had from the wheels that used to be on the car. And I just put these up there so I could check this, you know, fitment. Now, it came with a spacer I forgot about that the guy I got these from, his brother ran on his Corvette. And if you notice, it gives me a little bit of room there, a little bit of room over here, but they spin. Well, sort of, yeah, there you go. They spin, and that's exciting because on the other side, I have CCWs that are, you know, loosely bolted to the car. I bought some generic Amazon special through, like the really extended lug nuts to put on here in all four, because I'm going to run extended studs in all four corners, all-wheel drive, right? And we're going to get to it. So, like I said before, the parts from Australia are going to be probably about 2.5, 3 months to get here. With that being said, I'm going to work on tire and wheel fitment as best I can. I ordered some wheel spacers for the front. Oop, right there. There. Anyway, I ordered them for the front wheels, but they're the wrong ones. Imagine that. So the rear is fine from what I can tell. The rest of the tire and clearance I'll need to come in the lower control arms, and I'll order those in a couple weeks so we can put a rear set of tires and now wheels on the GTO. We've got coilovers. I think these are King. Oh no, or Viking. One, I can't remember. But I have a set of a coilover kit and coilovers in the car already. So we can get some tires on these wheels, get it on the ground or get blocks underneath it or whatever. Do our best to set ride height for the rear with that tire diameter. And then we'll have a tire circumference to stay within for the front. Because remember, all-wheel drive. We can't just run whatever odd wheel and tire height combination, because that'll affect the car performance-wise, at least for as far as the transfer case is concerned. So I got that. That's what we're going to work on with the GTO for right now. We'll wait for everything else to show up from Australia. We'll probably do some wiring, like I said before. Clean the interior up, get it on the ground, get it all four wheels and tires on the ground, get the stance kind of figured out of how we want it to sit and how it needs to sit, so that when the all drive system shows up and we put it on the car, we can get everything. We'll have a base to start with for the goal, so that way we know what to try to achieve when we make the modifications to the car. The big question, though, that everyone seems to have is, what are we going to do about steering? Well, it really comes down to this. The system comes with the right-hand drive rack and everything off of a right-hand drive car. So if we can't reasonably solve the steering issue with the drive shaft on the left-hand side and using the left-hand drive steering, we're just going to convert it to right-hand drive, which seems like a big deal, but it's really not. And I say that because, well, I mean, Honda guys have done it for years. They've either swapped the entire front clips or just swapped the steering columns. In my case, everything for this car to be right-hand drive is already there. It's just like blocked off or silhouetted into the firewall, but it's already there. So if it comes down to it and we have to do a right-hand drive conversion, whatever, no big deal. How much more of a big deal is it once we get the all-wheel drive system, transmission, everything is there, but we just can't find a reasonable solution to steering and then just pull the dash out, which is lightly bolted in there because it's roll cage behind it, and just convert it to all-wheel drive. It's not a big deal at all, not to me. If anything, it'd add an even more significant cool factor, but that's neither here nor there. So, a little bit of rambling, but we do have stuff going on. A lot of it is just waiting on parts at this point. The other block for the Subarus at the machine shop, we're trying to narrow down what we can find, rotating assembly-wise, because it's an old engine, and a lot of the parts are discontinued. We'll get that thing back together so I can get him off to the races. My middle son picked up his first car, a V6 Camaro, and I know, but it's his first car. He bought it with his own money. He got a smoking deal on it, and everything works. Key. So we'll see if he wants to do, like a 5.3 LS swap or whatever, because I know where there is one to go in it, or if he just wants to work on cosmetics and fix the things that are broken. I don't know. I don't care. It's on him. He's done it all on his own up to this point, and I'm super proud of him. So with that being said, thanks for watching.